Stuart here from Fig Boot on Pens. Today I wanted to talk about a small fountain pen that packs a pretty big punch. And that pen is the Pilot Prera. What I'm going to do is go over some of the parts and features of the Prera, talk about some of the things I care for and that I don't care for, show some measurements, some size comparisons, and then provide a writing sample. And then you want to stay tuned for information about how to enter a giveaway for this pen. This pen was provided to me by Engaica.com for review purposes and to give away to one of the viewers. The Prera comes in this box. It's really nothing fancy, just a plastic box with the black bottom to it. And inside we have a proprietary Pilot cartridge. Then there's just the use and care guide, which is in Japanese and English. And then we have the pen. The Prera comes in a variety of colors, and some of the versions of the pen are solid in color, and then you have the transparent versions which have colored accents, as you can see here on each tip of the pen. In this case it is blue. Let me go ahead and take off this clip tag. We'll go ahead and start with the finial here. It has a two-tiered finial, and it basically is flat on the end. And then we have the clip here, which slopes up slightly and then down and then back up again. And it's a little on the short side, but it fits in well with the size of the rest of the pen. And it has a decent amount of spring to it. We have the color accent here, and then there is a rounded silver band here on the end. And excuse me. Then we have the white inner cap, which I'll speak about a little bit more later. And the cap tapers up slightly. And I really like this cap design. You can see here that there's two rows of dots and then a band that says Prera, and then it also says Pilot Japan on the other side, and then another two rows of dots. But due to the silver metal band at the end of the cap, it gives the second set of dots like a silver background, which is a nice design touch. There is a slight step down to the barrel, which then the barrel tapers down slightly. And then as you can see here that there's facets on the inside of the barrel that taper down as well. That's just an interesting design element rather than having just a clear featureless barrel. Then near the end here we have another rounded band, and then we have another colored accent piece at the end, and then the end is very slightly rounded. It looks almost flat, but it's very, very slightly rounded. The cap actually snaps off, and there was a recent Reddit poll that asked about what pen had the most satisfying click to it, and the winner by far was the Pilot Prera. What it does is that when you cap it, there's a little bit of soft pressure once you get to about here. And so when you're pushing it, there's a little bit of pressure to it, and then you can hear the click. And so it's not a hard click. It's really a little bit of pressure and then a very nice, soft, satisfying click. And the cap snaps off very easily with little effort, but it is in no way insecure. It's very secure on there. And then what we have here is a medium steel nib, and the nib says Pilot Super Quality Japan, and then M for medium. And here's a look at the feed, which has a nice solid design to it. This is a very nice steel nib. I haven't tried it myself, but I've read that the nibs on the Prera and the Pilot Metropolitan are interchangeable. I personally feel the nibs on the Prera are a bit nicer, but the option is there if you're a big fan of the Metro nibs to switch this nib out. And they're just friction fit. You can just pull them out and interchange them with the Metro. The section begins with this small silver-colored kind of two-tiered end, and then the section tapers up just slightly to a very small step up and another silver colored ring. And there's no threads since this cap snaps on. This pen is a bit small for me, that it really doesn't feel good in my hand unless it's posted. It does post very securely, and it turns it into a more acceptable size pen. And it really balances out the pen a bit better. The extra weight on the back of the pen is helpful here. I think without it, it just feels a little bit too light, but it gives it a little bit more substance when you have it capped. As you can see, the section is transparent. And so it's actually cool to see the feed fill up with ink, which can add another accent of color to the pen. This is a cartridge converter pen, which takes Pilot's proprietary cartridges and converters. And there is a converter that is included with this pen. If you want, the Prera can be used as an eyedropper, and I always enjoy watching the ink slosh around in the barrel, and especially for a small pen, then really increases the ink capacity as well. I have noticed that it's a little tough to clean this pen with a bulb syringe, because it's a little hard to see in here, but there's an extra piece of plastic that is inside here in this nib unit, and that kind of prevents the bulb syringe from making a good seal in here. So it's a little easier to pull out the entire nib, which is just friction fit in here, as opposed to using a bulb syringe, which doesn't quite work as well on these Preras. I like the looks of the Prera a great deal, mainly except for one thing, which is this white inner cap. Now, I understand the purpose of the inner cap. It houses the mechanism to cap the pen, but you have this really nice transparent pen, and it would be really nice to be able to see that nib, as well as the feed, where you could really see the ink on the pen as well. And it's a relatively small issue, but it's one of those things that bugs me a little bit, because the pen could be a little bit nicer, in my opinion. So there you have the Pilot Prera. It's a great little pen, which, as you'll see in the writing sample, performs very well as well. So I wanted to thank Ingaika.com for providing this pen for review and for giveaway. Don't forget that if you visit their site, to use the code FIGBOOT with a capital F to receive a 7% discount for your entire order on their site. So in regard to the Prera, here's some measurements. Then I'll show some size comparisons, a writing sample, and then let you know how you can win this very pen. So here we go with size comparisons for the Pilot Prera. In regard to some larger pens, here it is with a Lamy 2000. And then here it is with a Montblanc 149, and then here it is with a Classic Pens LB5. You can see that there is a big size difference between those. And then in regard to some pens that are more of its size, here it is with a TWSBI Mini, and it's actually slightly larger than the Mini. And then here it is with the Kaweco Sport. Again, it's a little bit larger than the Sport as well. And then two other comparisons. We have it with a Pilot Metro, and then here it is with a Lamy All-Star. Now, this is the pen that I'll be giving away, but I figured that for that writing sample, rather than inking this one up, I'll use my own pen that I have, my own Prera. And you can see that the blue is just slightly different on it, but the lighter one is the one that will be given away. So here we go with the writing sample for the Pilot Prera. Let me actually cap that. It's a little more comfortable to use when capped. And this is a medium nib, and the ink is something different. It is Dr. P.H. Martin's Ocean Blue. It comes in this bottle here. I was on vacation this past week, taking a road trip to visit some family, as well as see some other sites. And while in Buffalo, New York, I visited this art supply store called Hyatt's in downtown Buffalo. They had a wide variety of items for sale, but in the back they had a decent number of pens and a nice little Faber-Castell display, as well as having a selection of inks on an ink cap. And I picked out an ink that I wasn't familiar with, and it's called Dr. P.H. Martin's Ocean Blue, as you can see here. And then even on the side it says, works great with TWSBI Diamond 580 and TWSBI Vax 700 and other high quality fountain pens. But then on the other side, it actually says may not be suitable for all fountain pens, and so maybe you're not supposed to use this for pens with sacks. That's probably my guess. But it's something interesting that I hadn't seen before. It actually comes with an eyedropper here, so that if you're eyedroppering a pen, it makes it really easy to use. This is what the color actually looks like. It's a decent dark blue that kind of reminds me of a darker version of something like the Private Reserve Naples blue or even the Konpeki. It kind of has that same turquoise sheen to it, but just a little more saturated and deep here. But it's an interesting color. So here we go with the rest of the writing sample. This is a rather rigid steel nib. You're not going to get a lot of line variation out of here. I don't know if you can really tell, but it is nice that there is a bit of shading and pooling down here at the bottom with this ink. So you're not going to get a large amount of line variation, even if you give it a bit of a press, just a tiny bit, but not a ton. And in regard to wetness, it's a decently wet nib. I wouldn't call it a gusher. And in regard to reverse writing, it is very scratchy but usable. And then in regard to some fast writing, there's really no issue at all in here. The Pilot Prera is a very solid pen for the price, and that it's a great little knockabout pen. There's a lot of pens that I'm really careful with, but this one is one that you really don't need to be overly careful with. You can throw this pen in a backpack or a messenger bag and really not be too concerned about it. It's really a well-built pen. And to win this pen, just leave a comment in the YouTube comment section. Today is Sunday, June 19th, 2016. You have until midnight Eastern on Thursday, June 23rd in order to enter. Sometime after then, I'll randomly select a comment and that person will win this pen. So again, want to thank Ingaika.com for the donation of this pen to give away. And I mentioned it before, but when visiting their site, make sure to use the code FIGBOOT with a capital F for an additional 7% off of your entire order, which will help. Basically, it pays for shipping and a little bit more. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll talk to you later.